Economic Ghosh, Senior Assistant Editor with the Economic Times, CIO and CISO. Now, we are going to be talking about the power of AI and what it has done or is doing for the Indian startup ecosystem. Now, since morning, we've been hearing about some fascinating use cases in addition to the ones that we already know about. We saw AI use cases in agri-tech. We are looking at AI being used for creating music, medical diagnosis. We also have AI being used for travel and tourism, and also another fascinating use cases where AI is being used as a virtual assistant, supposed to be India's first virtual influencer, in fact. Now, in this panel discussion, we're going to be talking about everything about, how can startups go about leveraging AI, what it unlocks for them, what is the business benefit of it, and also the aspect about what do venture capitalists look at, when they're trying to fund AI companies. What are those factors that make them stand out? All right. So to do that, we've got a stellar panel out here, and I'm going to be starting with you, Surya. To start with, what are some of the key trends that you've observed when it comes to AI being used in the Indian AI startup ecosystem? And also, how are they leveraging the power of AI to translate to business impact?
Thank you. First of all, this is the ideal session to have right after lunch so that the bar for making smart remarks in your postprandial stupor is fairly low and we can get away with saying fairly stupid things. But kidding apart, that's a very expansive question. There are two parts to it. One is obviously the whole deep-seek manners and the kinds of things that we are confronted with almost on a daily basis makes this whole space not only super exciting but also really scary, because the bets you take today in certain areas may become obsolete tomorrow, right? So there are two levels at which stuff is happening. One is at the foundational level, the tools, the infrastructure, and now what's going on with this whole agentic AI, people making no-code agents, creation easy, and so on and so forth. That's one. Second, and that's the really scary part. I'm with a early-stage venture firm called Capria, based in Bangalore and elsewhere. And we are very clear that we invest in applied AI, the keyword being applied. Because we believe that the real value, not to say that value is not going to get created elsewhere, it most certainly will be, but from our vantage point, the value that we see is at the application and services layer and some of the use cases that you were talking about. So given our thesis, there are two areas where we've three areas where we've seen some really interesting use cases. One is in the entire job tech area. And whether it is white collar or non-white collar, gray and blue collar, where the volumes are so high in terms of resume screening, in terms of initial screening, AI-based assessments and interviews, and narrowing down of the funnel, helping very large gray blue collar companies like Better Place work through literally tens of thousands of resumes on a monthly basis and hire and onboard people in volumes. So that's something that we are seeing a lot of, interview as a service, automating processes for the HR function and so on and so forth. That's one area. The second area where we're seeing a lot of AI, and rightly so, is in healthcare. And we believe that healthcare and AI is a marriage made in heaven because of two things. It is so data rich, and second is every disease is a corner case. So you need huge amounts of data and analysis, and data can really become a moat there, as opposed to, say, in some of the other sectors, like fintech, where with 10,000 data points, you can get a fairly good system.
Correct.
So those are the two broad areas where we're seeing a lot of activity. And in particular, we see that because entrepreneurs know that we are focused on those areas, so they come to us.
Thank you so much for that. Now, all of you must remember when OpenAI was first introduced, Sam Altman made a comment that India could never be the birthplace for something like an OpenAI. And it kind of ticked us off a little bit. And we kind of drew solace from the fact that, yes, AI is going to be, or India is going to be the use case capital of the world when it comes to AI. But then I don't think we can get there when it comes to developing our own LLM models. But we've got Vivek out here. Vivek, you have a slightly different train of thought. You believe that we should invest our time and resources into developing LLM models, especially in an application such as linguistics. Explain, please.
Yeah, so I believe so, and there are two very big reasons why it's so important. I know that there are a lot of people who are advocating for sovereign AI, but we are facing challenges with data, right? When we look at the existing large language models and other Gen AI solutions that are there, those have actually been very good in English just because there was enough data available in English language. You know, ever since the computing medium was in use, and even before that, whatever that was there, a lot of that has been digitized and it is all available on the internet. So data in English language was available and it continues to be available as people keep engaging. Whereas data in, let's say Indian languages is abysmal. And because of that, the models are not very good. So while trying to develop models for India, a lot of effort has been going in the, data generation or data creation itself. Now, when we try to compare the two, apart from the existing large language models already being very expensive to run or build in training and so on, they did not have to spend in building data. And we are already having to spend in building data. So I believe that if we continue doing this, then the models for India are also more likely to become more expensive. And the moment we will stop spending on building data, what happens then? So one of the things that I think is very important is first to be able to focus on users, that people should be able to engage on the internet so that natural data keeps getting created. We don't have to build it. It has to get created because people are engaging on the internet. So a lot of alternate solutions that are engaging people are more important. Voluntary creation has to happen, right? And second is that algorithmically we are having a much, much better chance because Indian languages are very structured. Our script and our language, the way we write them, they are phonetic in nature. They are very structured. So we are more likely to get algorithmic benefits. But when we are trying to build models based on whatever that we see, we are probably overlooking the fact that we can actually make things a lot more efficient. And the moment we are able to bring the costs down, for example, I believe that an Indian language or India-specific large language model is possible to build at 100th or maybe a 1,000th of the cost that the popular ones are out there right now. And it will not just to build, but also to be able to run. So when we are reaching there, when we have the potential to be able to reach there, then it is just natural that we must build it. Otherwise, we will continue to depend.
All right. Thank you so much for highlighting that, Vivek. Appreciate it. All right. My next question is going to be about what are some of those unexplored areas, those untapped gold mines? And Ankit, if you could weigh in with your thoughts from your experience of what you've seen in the market as well, where do you think we are kind of overlooking some low-hanging fruits which we could actually use or use AI to tap into?
The full landscape is full of low-hanging fruits here. AI is so difficult to even comprehend because most of us, we try to treat it as a tool that, okay, I have a question or I need to have an email summarized. Let me put it on ChatGPT or something else. These tasks are very commodity in nature and they're very easy to automate. They will get done. I think the deeper benefits of AI will come when you start to leverage some of the more advanced capabilities, like the reasoning models. Like DeepSeek showed everyone that, oh, there is a chain of thought that is coming and the AI is thinking about your problem. And everyone really resonated with that. So one scenario is that like you have to really understand the limits of these models because most of us only deal with them at the surface level. The next one is just to get familiarity with the tools. and to be comfortable with leveraging AI in your day-to-day workflows, because it is always a bit scary to say that, okay, can I plug in a AI in this decision engine? What if it is taking the wrong calls? What sort of engineering do I need to do to make sure that the output is correct and it's reliable in nature? So there is just the limits of capabilities that the current AI models have is not clear. Even the like the very recent example of this Manus, however they're pronouncing it, the latest agentic AI generic bot that came out. It was built on top of the existing models that are available in the market. Anyone could have built it. But just the thought of putting everything together in such a nice manner and packaging it so that it can be built and shipped to users is difficult, because it's you've not seen anyone else do it, so you have to do it for the first time. So as the ecosystem evolves, we'll learn how to better leverage AI and how to build better products, how to sort of solve deeper problems.
All right, thank you for that. Anirudh, I would want a VC aspect on this as well. You've seen the emerging startup ecosystem in India. You've seen a lot of AI-focused companies, and of course a lot of use cases, especially in healthcare, like Vivek mentioned out here, and fintech as well. What are some of those unexplored gold mines that we are yet to see, and which do you think something that could benefit our audience if they could tap into it?
I think I agree with Ankit that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there. When I approach something, I first start with, what am I willing to pay for, right? And some of the things that, like for example, I saw an AI model last week that can prepare a 2-page investor note for a company that I would like to review with whatever logic and methodology I have. It could do it in 30 seconds. Usually people in my office will take at least 2 to 3 days. It scared the bejesus out of some of the analysts, because they were like, now that job can literally be replaced. I think then a second place I like to see it is, and Surya and I were talking about it in the break. We have a company that initially started as a platform to recruit freshers from colleges, and then after analyzing enough conversations and the way things were going, built an entire LLM or AI model on top of it, rather. An agentic type model, and what it did was it reduced the time to find the right candidate from 4 months for this organization down to 48 hours. And now that is huge both for the candidate and for the organization. And just imagine the amount of time, effort, and maybe heartache it reduced for the recruiting team, right? That has to go through 50,000 resumes to find 50 right candidates. This platform did it literally in 48 hours. I think those are the solutions that are right, that I can almost say that this is exactly what we have to solve now, right? I can talk about even like we have an astrology company, and they're saying, hey, we've now done something like 2 billion astrology minutes. Can we now build an AI agent on top to at least answer the most basic questions that get asked of this astrologer all the time? I think those are the places where we're going to start. And it's easier for me to touch, feel, and tell you that this is what we need to solve today. Now, if I tell you, and AI is moving so fast, we were discussing, how do we even nomenclature it? Because वो इतना फटाफट change हो रहा है, आज rapper, कल कुछ और. And so I feel कि if I look even 2-3 years out, you can literally imagine once you have these kind of models built out, what can you build on top of it? And I think we're going to get into higher and higher competitions, higher and higher, areas where even like I think Fireflies does it a bit, right? Where it also analyzes how the person is talking, right? It can do that for you. Like it can even start giving you more contextual stuff about, which is a little bit more than what Otter does. I think those are the areas that are going to get really interesting in the next maybe 2 to 3 years. But it's just moving so fast. I think I'm just interested in what problems am I willing to pay for, and what problems can you solve for me today? So that's where I think the ChatGPT agent model, $2,000 to $20,000 a year, those kind of things make a lot of sense today.
I'd also want to hear from you, since you've worked with a lot of companies out there. Now, as a customer CTO, what advice would you want to give to budding entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs out there? How do they go about starting an AI-driven business?
Find the money, find the problem, find a solution. I think applied AI is probably going to be the easier path to doing things. And when you think of the old AI maturity approach to how you would go about, right? Where AI helps assist a human to get something go somewhere is going to be the low-hanging fruit that we're all going to go after. Like all the case studies, all the use cases spoken about in the last 10 minutes would be the classical examples where you would be able to do a product market fit or a validation very early. That's sort of where I would start with anybody who wants to start something today. The second is if you're able to have the science, have the team to go in, you can definitely, I mean, we did see a very interesting case earlier today on someone who was building an LLM for music.
Correct.
Right? And there are plenty of them in the market, but the idea is, okay, how do I go and attack so that we can now create a new genre of music? That's a very different way to think of it. The last new genre of music was hip hop. Right? And after that, we haven't had much. So can I use AI to build a new genre of music? Can artists build on top of it? So I want to build a foundation model to do on top of it. That's a much longer timeline of build, validate, scale out, etc., etc. So you're going to have these cases. And similarly, you're going to see this in every field with respect to going to the top level of applied AI where it comes as an assistant. The second is areas where AI more or less takes over the 80-20 model where AI does 80% of the work, humans do 20% of the intervention work. And in some areas, especially in software engineering, I mean, one of the areas that's my favorite is AI for AI, where you start using AI extensively to build AI models. So one of the things that Google V released recently was the data science agent, where you just type a few words in English and it actually builds the AI model for you, right? So things like that start becoming more and more interesting over time. And we will see a lot of work going on. And remember, we're still in the very early days of this. So over the years, we're going to see a lot of work coming on more of the foundational technologies, foundational sciences, mechanics, etc., that helps us build higher order systems, higher order capability over time. But today, if you want to start applied AI, go pick up, I mean, the money is all here. So pick it up, run.
All right, folks. So like he said, find a problem to solve. That's all you have to do because the money is at number 2 and number 3.
Right.
Solution is at number 4. Identify your use case. That's all you need to do.
I provide the technology.
All right. Now, Ankit, I would want to take in your thoughts on this as well. What's been your approach to imbibing AI into your business? And also, what advice would you want to give to our budding entrepreneurs out here if they want to build an AI-driven business from scratch? What are the must-dos at this point?
There are a lot of obvious things. I won't talk about them. Like you could put a support agent to answer customer tickets and so on. There are a lot of startups to serve those needs also. So I don't think you even need to build some of these things yourself. The harder things are often like there are multiple layers here. One of the difficult use cases is actually leveraging AI to make yourself faster. Like how do you improve your iteration speed? How do you improve your own development pace? Like the example of using AI to build AI. That's something I think any medium to large size company has to start investing in because there will be early adopters. There will be people in the team who are on the cutting edge, but you want to democratize it within the org. So that is a very inward looking answer. You can think about customers over here. Often the need for a customer to solve a problem or the job they are trying to do with your software is not very well articulated. Like there is a lot of judgment involved in doing any, let's say if you are building a supply chain solution or you're building a sales pipeline, some orchestration tool. AI works best when the context is there in a written down format. You can feed everything to an AI agent and it can take decisions based on these things. So it's often half the time you have to work with the customers to get things in a written down format where the decisions, the different metrics to look at and so on are actually encoded into the platform. And then they are used to feed the AI decision engine and take decisions. It's also, there are so many avenues that we every day come up with new ideas, we don't have time to execute on them. One of the examples of this was last year during the income tax filing season, we launched WhatsApp-based filing for gig workers, where like Zomato drivers, delivery workers, all of them could just talk to a agent on the phone, whether on chat or through voice, and get their full tax filing done end to end. This was an idea that came bottom up because we had to run hackathons in the company to figure out what are great ideas because Just the leadership is not able to always think about all the different use cases. So we did, some of these ideas come bottom up, some of them come top down. You have to always be looking out for opportunities to leverage these technologies, because the more you do with AI, the more you learn about the limitations and the best practices, and the more you'll figure out where it can be applied well. So I think just getting experience with it is very critical.
Right, right, absolutely. And I think that's a great use case. In fact, maybe a lot of people get thrown off with the fact that you have to approach a CA if you want to file your tax returns. If it can be done on something like WhatsApp, nothing like it. Absolutely. Now, Vivek, the next question that I want to pose to you is about user trust. Now, we've spoken about a lot of these LLM models, all right, open AI tools as well. If you take something like DeepSeek, it can answer pretty much all of your questions, except if you ask it something like, what happened in Tiananmen Square, right? So this affects user trust. What would you advise to companies out there? How can they build or how can they innovate without having to compromise on user trust? How can they monetize without compromising user trust?
Yes. So I think it's the nature of the, so generative AI has to generate. And when it has to generate, there are no bounds. I mean, the way that it learns is that there is a span of context. So when it is generating, it would obviously keep crossing those and therefore keep generating, and that's what we call hallucination, right? So that's what brings trust down. But there are already pretty much very good established ways that you can control that, the RAG, as well as I would say what people call as small language models, but I would call that a limited language model. So those are the ways that you can actually bring that kind of trust. But what is more important for somebody to be able to take is not only that it is limiting the answers to the context, but whether it is also able to deliver the value that I want it to deliver. Because a limiting model will not only stop its generative capabilities, but it might also limit it to be able to answer for that particular business. So both these things need to have a balance.
All right, thank you for that, Vivek. Now, the next question is going to be a money and a technology problem. So let's talk about the money part of it. And Anirudh, if you could weigh in with your thoughts on this one. We have open source AI models today like Llama 3, or we've got Gemma also gaining a lot of traction. Does it still make sense for startups at this point in time to develop proprietary models?
I think it's a yes and no kind of a question, right? I think if you're talking about, let's say, creating another ChatGPT type solution, I think no. Because the kind of resources, both in terms of power, talent, I don't think we have that within reach today. But I'm definitely in agreement with some of the other panelists that we need to start thinking outside the ChatGPTs of the world, right? Start thinking small language models, start thinking limited language models. I like that word, and because I think that you can create multiple Googles, but usually only one worked, right? I think we're going to have that moment either with ChatGPT or one of its clones out there. I think, but we need to start thinking what can we build on top of it. And again, I'm probably crystal gazing here at this point, but can we think 5 years out, like when we're talking about AI building other AIs, can we talk about a large language model could possibly help us create another large language model? So does it make sense for you to be spending billions of dollars of money today to effectively create something which in the future a advanced LLM model could do on its own? Again, I'm not the techie. I'm just crystal gazing and just going, hey, I've seen this play out way too many times before. We spend way too much money on foundational models, way too much money in creating another Orkut, if you remember back in the day. Yep. And then we just realized that, hey, we just can't compete with what's going to be the de facto foundational model out there. So why not just create something on top of it? And I think that moment, especially with AI, has been faster. Then maybe Orkut lasted a bit longer than I think maybe an Indian LLM might. So we need to start thinking SLMs or triple LMs, like limited language models. It makes a lot more sense to me.
All right, thank you for that. Madhu, if you could weigh in with your thoughts from the technology point of view.
Okay, so I mean, across this, right, so I have some specific thoughts around first the concept of should India build an LLM, et cetera, itself, right? So first, let me start with this. Content is the mechanism through which you encapsulate and package culture. If content is going to get generated and you want to capture your culture, you want some kind of mechanism where you control and manage that, right? Otherwise, you're going to lose it. That's something that you have to be very, very clear about. So if India wants to preserve many aspects of what it is, we need to build our own LLM somewhere in there. Who does it, how it happens, etc., etc. So one example I can give you from what we do at the Google Labs in India. India has several languages where there is no written script, right? There's only voice. You can speak that language, the other person responds in voice. So there is a team that's working on ensuring there is 100% voice-to-voice mechanism through which an LLM will work. That means we cannot do it. Like the classic way it would be just, you speak something, Gemini Live will translate that to text, convert it to text in written form, do some inferencing, come back, generate new text and then translate it and come back and respond to you. That won't work. This is a complete voice-to-voice engine, right? Research that's required in the space. We do a lot of active work in this space. Because that's the only way you're going to preserve a lot of the history, culture, storylines, etc., that happens as part of what it is. Number one. Number two, in the business space, where we come in and the technology is required, etc. So then that's where the whole applied AI and the pieces around it and everything that we want to do there kicks in. And that's where the lower hanging fruits are. The necessary technologies to do this exist in India. The capabilities exist in India. Capabilities exist outside of India as well. The question is, do we want to put, I don't think it is a question of knowledge, resources, math, science, because all of this is democratized today. You can learn what is required to achieve a full LLM on YouTube. That training is available there right now. Andrei Karpathy has published it. You cannot get a better tutor to teach that today, right? So it is there. The source code is there. DeepSeek source code is there. Llama source code is there. So now it is the question of picking it up and figuring out what to do. Now, do I have the resources and the silicon to actually do that? Do I have the energy resource to do that? Do I want to spend that kind of time doing something? It may not make a lot of sense to build another Llama or another ChatGPT, but does it make sense to do that for Tulu? Does it make sense to make that for some other language in India, or encapsulate a whole aspect? I mean, astrology was a great example you gave. I mean, can we encapsulate the Bhagavad Gita in there? Can we encapsulate? Remember, there's a lot of religious texts and a lot of other texts in India, right? Which captures an essence of a lot of what we do today. Do we want to do that? Is all opportunities, is all questions, is all mechanisms that we have. The technology exists. There's no challenge of technology today.
Right, thank you for that. Now, the other part of it is, the next question is really important, right? So, folks out there, you want to take out your notebooks and jot some of these points down. And for this, let me go to you first, Surya. Surya, you've seen a lot of AI-driven startups out there. What are VCs looking for? What do you look for? 3 things that you look for when it comes to funding an AI-driven startup.
Let me pop up a level from a particular use cases and sectors and domains and become a little more abstract. First, all this will become table stakes, the low-hanging fruit and all of that. Everybody will use it. Smarts and capability is not at a premium anymore. So what if you take any business, abstracting the sector out of it, what can this do for you? It can speed up your go-to-market. It can improve your margins. It can improve your customer value proposition. Now, what does it do when it improves your margins? Certain businesses which were earlier not viable to serve become more viable because now you can squeeze the margin and pay your costs and become a viable business. Third, it can, if you use it well, it can increase your TAM because language is no longer a barrier, right? So think of it as a process, as a business system, and whatever problem, whatever domain you're in, what am I going to address over here? Become more efficient, squeeze more margin, and hence become more, a better business, and maybe go into areas which were earlier not servable because there was no money to be made. Improve my customer value proposition, a better product, or increase TAM and be the early leader, right? So look, and the reality, the sad reality is none of this is going to be people keep talking about moats and durable, competitive advantages and so on. Unless you're Google, or one of these 6 platforms, it's hard to get that in your startup businesses. So at the end of the day, it's all about how you analyze this business system, whichever domain you are in, where you take the early bets, and then execute the hell out. Because somebody will come and do the same thing, maybe better, but you have a bit of a head start, right? And finally, how is that going to make you a better business and make money for him?
Just 1 second, I'll just pitch in, right?
Sure.
So the bar, I think, today with AI, we all have to set, right, is that for every person in your organization, you should look at $1 billion market cap. I call this the solo unicorn story.
You can tell he's from Google.
Right? For every person in your company, it's $1 billion market cap. So if you're 10 people, it's $10 billion. That's sort of where you have to target. That's the bar you have to hit, and you can work towards that.
Anirudh, let me get your inputs as well. How do you do things at Artha? What do you ask yourself if you're approached by an AI-driven startup?
AI-driven startup, it doesn't matter to me whether you're AI or not.
Okay.
Many times I've felt, and I say it humorously, that sometimes when startups use the word AI, it actually means there's just another Indian at the job, right? So according to me, AI or no AI, there are 6 principles. They're on our website. They haven't changed. We've been public market investors for 50 years. I've been in the private markets now coming on 14 years. We've seen everything. We've seen eyeballs, valuations done by the number of eyeballs that were looking at you. We've heard crazy things. I mean, there's a great book, and I carried it just for everybody here. I think this is a great book to read. Engines That Move Markets, right? And I would recommend everyone to read it. It starts from the time of electricity. And do you know what anybody knows when the first bulb was made, which was the first market that died?
Candles?
Actually, whale oil. Right? And it's crazy, right? And this kind of innovation has happened. When telephones came out, the telegram market died. So on and so forth. I think just saying that you're AI doesn't take away from the fact that you still need to have a P&L statement that affects the balance sheet, right? And it needs to affect the balance sheet in a positive manner. So according to me, solve a fundamental real human problem, build businesses with good positive unit economics, have the opportunity and potential to have massive scale. There should be some moat. I'm not saying you can have, Google's moat is 5-10 years at this point, right? But many startups can have a 6-month, 9-month lead on something, and that itself is a good enough moat in today's day and age, right? I think the founders need to have a right to win. Too many times I hear about founders talking about AI, and then you ask, hey, who on the team has some AI experience? Nobody has AI experience. They're going to hire the AI guy with the money we fund them. That's not how AI works. And lastly, right, remember, and this is why I'm putting this last, technology is the enabler. It cannot make you a business, right? So technology first companies, in my opinion, have never worked. It's dhanda first businesses, because Indian audience, right? So dhanda first. Dhanda kaise banega? AI uske andar lagega. AI dhanda nahi banane wala hai aur uske andar customer nahi ghusne wala hai. Simple as that, right? So I think these 6 principles, they're on our website. I think we evaluate every startup, AI ho, robotics ho. We've done 3D printing of homes in the past. Each one of them, we ask ourselves these 6 questions. As long as all 6 are answered, we believe that yes, there is a potential here now for investment. If they're not, then I think if it's a great AI startup but no market, what do you do with it, right? So that's my...
That's fantastic. I'd just like to add one thing. Sure. Many of you would have seen Bloom's Indus report. India is so opportunity rich. We have 1 billion people who are so thoroughly underserved today. And this technology, as I said, it's not about, this technology gives us the ability, the potential ability to reach and serve those customers in a profitable way. Across sectors, whether it is healthcare, agriculture, education, manufacturing, SMEs, fintech, what have you, right? Think of it as a tool and as an enabler. And India is so opportunity and use case rich. And all our entrepreneurial energies and our venture capital and everything has been focused on the top 15%. And we have 1 billion people there, right, who are waiting to be served.
Thank you for that. Surya, now, folks, if you have AI anywhere in your business names, you want to go back to the drawing board if you're looking for VC funds. Now, let's go to the other aspect of it. While we have this love story between technology, okay, such as AI and our startup ecosystem, there's also another side to it. There's a flip side to it. And that, let's take a recent industry stat. There's a Harvard Business Review article that estimates that more than 80% of AI projects, they either fail or they don't make it past the pilot stage. My friend Madhu here estimates that could go up to more than 90%, right? So, Ankit, I would want to, take your thoughts on this. How do you ensure that your AI project is successful and it does not land up becoming a science project on your shelf gathering dust?
So I think one of the solutions is to just embrace failure, like try a lot of different things and see what is working, instead of putting all your bets behind one big idea and then realize later that, okay, it's not the right thing to build. The other reason to do something like this is just to, I think I'm repeating my previous point, but as you do something more, you get better at it. So getting experience by doing smaller things will let you get the context and the capability to then tackle the bigger projects. So yeah, I would say that just start small, iterate, do a lot of different things, continuously learn, and look at what's happening in the market, because a week is a long time in the AI world. Things can change drastically in a week. So you have to always keep up.
Right, thank you. Madhu, if you could wait when your thoughts as well. Now, Google can afford to invest and fail. A lot of companies out there cannot. What advice would you want to give the folks out there? How do you ensure that their objectives are successful or they don't fail?
No, again, see, you got to understand, in the AI world, and it was true in with technology before, you have to embrace failure. You are not going to continuously succeed. That's not going to happen. So you're going to have, the key is learning from it, building forward very, very rapidly. Again, remember that AI is an acceleration tool today, which means you can use AI to write your code, you can use AI to build data science, you can use AI to run your experiments very, very fast, right? You can analyze the data coming out of your experiments, build your necessary dashboards, identify, the corner cases, the use cases, what succeeded, what did not succeed, etc., very quickly. You should not have to iterate over very long periods of time, right? So that way, I believe you have if you're using it correctly, you would have definitely accelerated yourself, i.e. you will fail faster, you will fail better, and you will move better in it. So that means you have the budget to now experiment more, which means you will also fail more. That's the reason I told you that 90% comes from the fact that you should be doing more.
I can just add to that, just one thing. I think it's all about the feedback loop is what they're talking about. If you've read the Lean Startup, right, the ability for you to go through this feedback loop much faster, which is build, iterate, test, learn, and go back to build. I think AI at every level makes that faster, right? You can build faster, you can test faster, you can also learn from it and even build again much faster. And I think if you don't do that, I think that 90% could be up to 99% also, right? So it's logical.
All right. Now, we have a unique panel out here. You've got two implementers, you've got two VCs, and if you've got one solution provider. We've got 3 minutes on the clock. I would want to open it up for any questions that you may have. We can take maybe a question or two at most. But if we don't get any questions within this time, I have one on my own. Now, we have a lot of talk going on around the transparency and the innovation and the explainability of AI. How do you view it? How do companies strike a balance between achieving the kind of pace of innovation they want while ensuring that their AI models are transparent and explainable? And this is open to anyone.
I would like to, but
Go ahead, please.
I didn't get the last sentence that you mentioned.
So how do you explainability part of
No,
it?
the
Transparency and explainability.
of the AI models, right?
Yes.
So the models by nature will never be transparent, because there is a lot of complex mathematics that goes into it and massive amount of data that goes into it. And therefore, the nature of what the learning has been and what it is going to produce is not predictable. I mean, you do not calculate and are certain that this is exactly what I'll get. If you could, probably you would just use those maths. So it is never going to be entirely transparent and explainable. So explainability is also, I mean, I just said that if the maths itself is complex, and therefore since it is not predictable, it is also not explainable. We just know that this is how it learns. And we are trying to improve that to be able to reach a point where it is able to learn with as many parameters as possible, right? So we are just hoping that it will probably reach a point where it is always able to give us what we want, but that is something that we will never reach.
Yeah, so the underlying, yeah, he's absolutely right? So till about 2021, until we get into large language models, etc., explainable AI was a very important construct and we worked through it. Now, what happened with attention is that you lose explainability because now you're actually amplifying certain aspects of the data path on the neural net and you lose explainability there because it starts traversing paths that you cannot control. That's one. But now the research models that we are now coming out with, there is an ability for you to explain on the chain of thought that occurs, right? But how it generated the chain of thought is a very different problem. That is not explainable. But once it is generated, you can look at that at a human interpretation level and say, okay, this is something that I agree with and that's something that I want to go forward with.
Surya, go ahead.
No, yes, a lot of work is happening. Ultimately, the sad reality is that there is no blacker box that human beings have created. The underlying mathematics is actually fairly simple. It's not very hard.
There's a probability.
Yes, it is just too humongous a beast, and no one understands why it works the way it works.
All right, that's pretty much all we have time for, folks. You can catch up with these gentlemen as well after the session if you have any questions or if you want to discuss anything with them. Thank you again, panelists. It was a very rich discussion. We covered a lot of ground, and thank you so much.